A couple of housekeeping items. Todd Hall did come up to me during the break and ask that we officially enter in the record and make sure we have on tape also that he did abstain during the last vote on the property that's owned by members of his family, so I want to make sure that's in the record. I've also been asked to announce that we do have recycling at this meeting, so if you have plastic or paper goods that you're done with, they can go outside into marked bins and they will be recycled and not go to the landfill, which is relevant to some of the upcoming discussions this evening.
I'm all for it. Yes, sir.
So if people could sit back down, you'll be able to hear my great jokes better.
City limits.
But it's true, Bill. You're right. If you'll sit down and stop your conversations, you'll be able to hear my great jokes better. Georgie, did she go home? Donna.
That's why I couldn't get on board with that.
Where is everybody? Harmon, where did you all go?
You scared us away.
Well, sure. Well,
More tea.
You brought some valid points.
All right. I feel like we lost some folks. Does anybody know? Did Georgie or Steve or Harmon or Jeff?
Yeah, Georgie.
I know Jeff went to make a phone call.
Georgie left.
Georgie's left.
Yeah, she had to go.
Okay, I guess we're just proceeding. It is my belief that we're going to power through this. And we may go till 11 or midnight, but we're going to do it. Is that what everybody's up for? Okay. We're here. We're doing it. All right. Here comes Jason. That's good.
I'm ready.
We got Jeff coming back. Great. Okay, now I had this wild and crazy idea. I don't know if there's any point in it, but that maybe we should hold off on at least 9, 14, and 15 and try and do the easy ones first. Does anybody think there is an easy one? Somebody then said to me, well, 16, 18, and 19 are all dependent on what happens in 14 and 15, so we can't do them before we do 14 and 15.
Time is time, David. Let's go on with the numbers. Yeah.
Just do them. Okay, we're just going to continue. So we're going to do number 9. All right, here we go.
Okay, study area 9 is the Doe Mill Honey Run study area. Alternative 1 is the existing general plan, which designates this entire study area for agriculture. Alternative 2 has about 500 acres of medium density residential, and the remaining would all be resource conservation. This alternative allows approximately 3,000 new homes. Alternative 3 is similar to a preliminary development proposal that was submitted to the county early on in our alternatives development process. This would allow about 750 acres of low-density residential, have about 30 acres of retail along the Skyway, and the remaining area would be resource conservation. And this proposal also includes a golf course, possible golf course development, and/or developed recreation, such as soccer fields. This would allow approximately 1,500 new homes. The city has provided some input on this study area. They said that it may be appropriate for future growth, but that noted that there are residents in the area that would be concerned about viewshed and habitat impacts. The city also suggested that the development be clustered to maintain open space. They indicated that any development would need to address any issues associated with a viewshed from the city itself, and also the city identified a need to coordinate with the Chico Area Parks and Recreation District. And at the open house, we received 14 comments. There was a slight majority that preferred alternative 1, and they cited, which is agriculture, and they cited concerns about drainage, traffic, noise, a loss of rural character, light pollution, water, biological resources, and open space preservation. There were 6 comments, a slight minority that supported some level of development, one of which specifically preferred alternative 3. And many cited the proximity to the Chico urban area as making it appropriate for development. And there was also some comments that indicated disagreement with the alternatives evaluation report findings for biological resources, and I think that's specifically related to that Galloway letter that David referenced earlier in the meeting. And we'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, and before we come to Jason, I believe this is another study area where the owners of the land have stated that contrary to our desires, we did not sufficiently articulate their proposal in our alternative 3 and that they would like to consider an alternative 4, and I believe that that's, although I'm not sure I understand the exact nuanced differences between it, perhaps some of you do, and I think that is in the record and the materials that you have. So I just wanted to state that I think that's out there as another alternative. And Jason, I think you had your hand up.
Well, actually, I wanted to add that this is a very easy one for me. This is one property I didn't know a lot about. Got the packet, went through that, and actually I visited the site, and some of the concerns up there I thought were, after you visited the site, were not an issue, especially when it came to view shed. If you visited the property, you can, and I think the proposal even says this, they're not wanting to go over into Honey Run or into Butte Creek Canyon. You really cannot see Chico from this area, and we basically have a specific plan here without the details, of course, the housing, and I don't think they're even proposing that the housing unit number that the county has put at the top is what they're wanting to go forward. So I really like what they've done here. It works into every scenario I think that the citizens of Chico want. Open space, parks, community design, compact urban form, clustering. It just seems to fit everything. I'm really happy with the applicant's proposal.
So you would like alternative 3, or to the extent it's different, alternative 4?
Yes.
Okay, John?
Well, sorry, you okay? I'm going to agree with Jason and then propose alternative 1. No, I'm quite serious in this. I'm not going to abstain. I live out there to the point where were there an elementary school built there, my grandchildren would probably attend it. But I think that this close to the sphere, this close to the city, card in the mix and everything else, all the things that are found in the packet, I think they're fine for reasons that Jason gave. And I think that I give the developer high marks for their even-handedness in saying that, develop in the city, develop in the county, doesn't really matter, depends on who gives us the better deal. I think we can make that decision really simple. I think we can say, develop it in the city, God love you, Godspeed, but alternative 1.
So, and John, your proposal is literally alternative 1, and it's not what you ended up voting, I don't know if it was you personally, but what the committee voted on under Belmure, which was allow the development, say, of alternative 3, but with the clear caveat that it has to be under city jurisdiction. Your proposal is just designate it for agriculture and let the city deal with it later. More what you did in Oro Bay and Rio Doro. Okay, Richard.
I agree with Jason. This seems to make a lot of sense. Alternative 4. I'm looking at their proposal, but I'm going to ask a question, and maybe we can get one of them to say, this is, to me, I mean, it's unusual for me to ask this, but could we put more homes there? In a certain, I really love the packet. I think it's really wonderful. It's an opportunity for us to do something really showcase. But on the idea of urban cores and smart growth, would it be equally wise to increase the density in some parts of it? I don't know. I haven't studied the packet enough. But I would support an alternative 4 with possibly increased density to follow smart growth policies a little more density.
Built in the county?
What?
Built in the county?
No.
Okay, so Richard, you're supporting alternative 4, but maybe with the additional caveat that it would only be developed under city.
Okay, I'm going to make it an alternative 5 then.
Right. So you have the same
John's
program.
one with the overlay, the same as we did with the Hall Isom property.
Right.
Put it in one with the
okay. So we'll call that alternative 5, for lack of a better name, and that is the program that's proposed in alternatives 3 and 4, but with the clear understanding that it has to be done under city auspices.
I'm not real happy with John's comment on the best deal, and I'd actually like to hear from the applicant on that particular comment of city or county. I mean, I'm sure they have a goal and have researched that.
The property is outside the city sphere. We are in the county. We're in the process of a general plan update. And our role, we felt, was to prepare information about the property that is factual and we could share with both this group and any other planning entity that's going forward. We've met with city staff. They're going to be seeing the property, and I think our job is to share visions, share information. I do believe it's appropriate for this board to weigh in about one of the alternatives, but I don't think it's appropriate, if you prefer one of the alternatives, to select an agricultural alternative and then assume a city's going to look at it later. And if it's appropriate in your minds to do some of the things that are talked about, then adopt alternative 4.
Agricultural-wise means grazing land out here?
Yeah, actually there's existing zoning would allow about 35 lots, but certainly no public open space or any of the things we've talked about.
And can you clarify for the record?
Yeah,
I'm not clear how alternatives 3 and 4 are different from each other. I mean, I am understanding that you've clearly stated it will include a community park and a regional park.
Yeah,
but in terms of absolute numbers of development, is there a difference that you want us to be aware of?
No, I think it totals.
Our alternative 3 does include about, where am I here? 1,500 new homes. Are you looking for a different number of homes?
No. No, but we're looking for more open space.
Higher cluster density. Okay, so you're assuming less than 750 acres of development, more clustering, and more land retained in open space.
Yes, among other minor distinctions, but they may be important. The county plan shows retail, 30 acres of retail. The concept of a village core, business professional things isn't quite retail, so that would be mixed-use commercial as well. To us, it's a major distinction. It may be minor to some folks, but the concept of walkability and a village core and all the things that we're talking about require more than a retail element.
You're not saying there would be no retail. You're just saying there would be retail and other things in that.
Change the definition from retail to mixed-use commercial.
Okay.
And then the resource conservation, you've got 665 acres in resource conservation. And we might be splitting hairs, but that's, if we lump all 900 acres of open space in the project, that's areas that would be resource conservation, areas that would be for outdoor recreation, regional parks, community parks, neighborhood parks, tot lots, creekway, open greenway corridors, and those types of things. So.
Okay, so my understanding is, again, to summarize, you're looking at an alternative that has the same 1,500 units. It has 30 acres of not strictly retail development, but retail and business and professional services, and it has a different mix of non-development areas with larger amounts of larger acreage of non-development, because the 1,500 units would be on a smaller number of acres. Those are the key differences. I would really like to move on if that's a good summary of the differences.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Scott.
And I promise I'm talking about this area. Like Pia, I'm on the HCP, and I agree that it's a good proposal from the developer, and it's very thoughtful. But the HCP is going to have a major impact on any development, as you'll note on page 216. Under the alternative 3 that the consultant analyzed, there's a D on the HCP. Fire is an issue, and water is also listed as a significant issue. And though we often talk about, well, you can cluster, and that can be a really good thing, the reality is when you move 1,500 houses into an area, you also move some other things along with them. You move dogs, you move cats, and you move people, and they have an impact on the listed species on page 216. So I think that it's problematic whether you're going to be able to develop in this area, and I'm going to have to, based on the HCP and being on that committee, vote for alternative number 1.
The unadopted HCP?
The alternative number 1 as proposed under study area number 9, Jason. So I'd be supporting what John had recommended.
Okay.
But because of the HCP.
Yeah. or the HCP process.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to summarize where I think we are. I think that I'm hearing actually a fair amount of agreement on sort of some fundamental concepts, and there's a procedural issue about how you get there. There's one group saying, let's adopt alternative one, and if the city is going to allow the development shown in this proposal from the owners, that would be under the city's jurisdiction. There's a group that's saying, at sort of the other end of a spectrum, is saying, let's go ahead and accept this concept now and essentially adopt alternative 4 as articulated by the owners of the land. And then there's a group perhaps in the middle there that's saying that owner's idea looks pretty good, but let's put it in place essentially with an overlay that says it's a pretty good idea, we like those numbers and those concepts, but we're only going to allow it if it's done under city jurisdiction. And that's what we're calling alternative 5 right
with
now.
An overlay.
So those are with an overlay. Those are the 3 options on the table. Pia?
We've heard through the process here about the importance of the groundwater in the lower Tuscan and the recharge areas, and the recharge areas are going to be more and more and more important for us, and I think that protecting those recharge areas is really going to be a driving force for our county and for our state. And in reading this, it talks about that this has a high potential for recharge. If we are going to actually protect the recharge areas, then we have to start shifting how we think about our recharge areas. Are we going to develop them, or are we actually going to protect our recharge areas? And I think we have to look at the swath of land that follows the foothills and think of them as an entirety and not just as parcels, because we start at Table Mountain and go north up to Tehama, and there's parcels there's several parcels that we're going to be looking at tonight, and some that are study areas and some that aren't. There's a proposed casino that the county's trying to work with, and that has a recharge area underneath it, and it's struggling very hard to say, are we going to have a casino on our recharge areas? And if we're allowing development on recharge areas, maybe that punches a hole in that argument for the casino. They all of a sudden have, well, if we're allowing development here, why can't we have our casino on the recharge areas? If we're allowing development here, how do you justify here and not there? So it seems to me we have to look at the recharge areas as an entirety, and I'm very, very protective of those recharge areas.
So Pia, that's an argument for going with alternative 1. Is that right? All right. 3 proposals on the floor, and I want to move to them if we can.
I do have one more question for the developer, and it actually tied in with water. As I understand it, they're actually looking at Cal Water providing the service for water, along with, in my opinion, the density is mitigatable when it comes to recharge. But I do have a question about the water, because it's great soil up there.
Cal Water has indicated an ability to serve. The whole groundwater recharge is a big one. And in our view, it's not only how much water you pull out of the ground, but how much you can put back in. So master planning gives you tremendous opportunities to maintain the areas that are high groundwater recharge along the creeks and natural drainage corridors, and create ponding and other things that helps that recharge. Plus sustainable measures on low flow irrigation and other things on a project development and design standard that helps minimize the amount of water you pull out of the ground.
If you build on it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're destroying the recharge, right? As long as you take that into consideration in your designs.
I was hoping no one was going to ask a technical question about recharge. What I think I've learned about recharge in the last couple of months is that we really don't know a whole lot. I don't think we know actually. I mean, I had thought that we knew that the recharge was mostly in the area, either at the base of or in the lower foothills. Then I started seeing some information that maybe the most recharge actually happens in the valley floor itself. There's information in both regards there. There is information that says what Bill just suggested, that if you site development properly and either allow some large open areas in between or make relatively large lots with high permeability, that you can do a lot of recharge and have development. There are other people who believe that once you start developing it, you really upset the ability to recharge at all. I think everybody agrees that recharge is very important. My sense of, and I'm not a technical expert, but all the technical experts I've talked to have in the end said, we can't tell you definitively either where it occurs or how it occurs. And I've decided that I wish we had better information, but we don't, and probably for this general plan, we're going to have to agree that we don't know.
Okay, based on what you just said, I don't think we should let that fall into the decision.
I think some people could believe that, and others, I think, are perfectly justified to say, I think I have enough information to make a decision also based on recharge. I just think, different people believe we know different things about it. I do think there's not a definitive answer right now.
I think the specific plan overlay will assure that to the extent possible, recharge will be maximized in this area.
Emily.
I have, unless the folks who propose alternative one can convince me and that's possible, I have a hard time seeing how the ag designation would be more protective than all the resource conservation in alternative 2, and it seems like maybe like around the corner, the intersection, the upper intersection with Potter Road and that great bike path, that would be a logical space for some concentrated development. The small, it's only 500 acres, or even lower, near the dough mill development there, and the rest would be resource conservation. So somebody can say how that would be less desirable than the ag. Otherwise, I'd like to put alternative 2 on the table.
Okay, so you're putting alternative 2 on the table. Alternative 2 would actually have more development potential than alternative 3, and so that's what you're wanting to do. You're wanting to have that smaller cluster
area.
development,
Right.
but with more units.
Right.
Okay, so we've got that on the table as well.
Yeah.
And is that with that same condition that it be done under a specific plan and under city auspices, or is that just a designation and it could be built under county auspices as well?
Well, it's logical that it would need services,
So it is with the specific plan designation, right, and to be done under city auspices. Right. Okay, so it's an alternative 2 modified in the same way that alternative 5 modifies alternative 3. Okay, we got 4 proposals on the table. I will recap them at some point whenever we're ready to vote. Are we ready to vote? Vote, okay. So Tanya has told me I actually have to clarify the proposal for alternative 1, because we've done 2 different things with things like alternative 1. And there may be that both of these proposals on the floor. Is there a proposal on the floor? I'm going to ask both of these and then tell me yes or no. It may be that there's a proposal that says it's alternative 1, it should be ag, period. And it may be that it's alternative 1, it should be ag, but it's fine with us if the city wants to do something different.
Is that a policy somewhere?
Yeah, that would become part of the policy statement in this plan. So I'm wanting to ask which of those 2 is on the table, or perhaps both are. Does somebody want to put on the table that it's ag, period, and we want the city to respect it as ag? Is that on the table? No. So what is on the table is it's ag, but if the city wants to do a development proposal, that's okay with us. We'll let the city pursue that. Is that on the table? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was a yes.
It's in single ownership. At what point later would annexation, when it's in multiple ownership, be a good idea?
Okay.
How is this difficult?
This is not difficult. I'm just wanting to make sure we understand the proposals. Okay, I'm getting tired, but I think there's 4 proposals on the table, right? So, alternative 1, modified to clearly state that it's ag now, but if the city would do a development proposal, that's consistent with the county's thoughts that it could be done under city jurisdiction. The next, what is the next one written up here? Is that's the one we just did, alternative 1.
Yeah, alternative 4. What happened to 4? 4. Start from top.
Oh, okay. So this is okay. I'm really sorry. So I'm going to start again. Alternative 1, modified to say if the city does do a development proposal, that's fine. That's the first item. The next alternative is the developer's alternative 4. Done by the county with no modifications.
Right.
The next one is what we're calling alternative 5, which is the developer's same proposal, but with the understanding it occurs under a specific plan and under city jurisdiction and with policy statements about what it will be.
And it's zoned ag until
it's zoned ag until that time. And the last proposal is that same proposal, but with the development potential and locations that are shown in alternative 2 instead of the one shown in alternative 4.
I think the first and second ones you mentioned are the same.
I think the difference.
Leave it in ag.
Yeah, but the difference is that under the first one, alternative 1, this county makes no statement about what should happen.
That's not what you said.
Yeah. That is what I said. That's what I meant to say. Okay. I meant to say that the only thing the county says is if the city wants to consider something, that will not be considered inconsistent. But we're not going to say anything about what that something might be.
Right. We're not making a declaration that it must be cattle grazing.
The general plan will not say it must be under a specific plan, it must be done by the city, or it must follow the following criteria. Under alternative 1 as modified, none of those statements would be in the general plan. It would just say it's ag, but LAFCO should know that the county doesn't object to a city proposal. That's all that would happen.
As opposed to that where we prefer this.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I'll be interested to see what happens with the first alternative 4, but is there one on the table that says alternative 4 but only in the city? There isn't one.
Yes.
Alternative 5 program with a caveat that is but he said it has to be ag.
You're right.
Until.
Jason's right. It is zoned ag.
I understand, but he's saying it has to stay ag until it gets annexed. What's that?
Yeah, if you don't say that, then what is it?
I understand. I'm not happy. I think you have to lean down.
I'm going to take it again as written in order on here, okay? The one that I think Jason just asked for, or asked if it exists, is the first one written up here. It's what we're calling alternative 4. It is the developer's or owner's proposal, period, allowed to be done under county auspices. That's what we've written here as alternative 4. Okay? The second one on this list is what we're calling modified alternative 1. It is an agricultural designation with no other statements except to say that LAFCO should understand that the county does not object to a city development proposal. The third one on the list is what we've called alternative 5, which is the same as alternative 4, but with the statement that it must be done under city auspices with a specific plan and following a set of criteria or policies that we glean from the owner's application materials.
And it's ag until that.
And it's ag until that.
Well, and then that's one I would like to propose without the ag. Also, I don't think it needs to. I don't think it needs to stay ag until proposed for development. I think.
What would it be until then? You can't.
Well, it already is ag. I don't understand the constraint.
The constraint is it cannot be developed until the following things occur.
Then why are we? I don't understand why we're putting it in there. I don't specific language to that. Tell me what your intent is.
Jason, my reasoning is gets back to my question. I like this plan. I think this has tremendous promise, but I'm worried that if we say, yeah, we'd like it to be developed sort of like this, that we're going to get the ugly cousin of this. And I'd like to say that until this beautiful plan or some very close facsimile comes forward, Let's keep it in ag, in our back pockets.
It will only come forward to the city. You understand that?
Yes, but I think if we say that we want it to go forward to the city, that developers, and I could be completely misguided in this, would have an impetus, as there are only 2 owners right now, to go to the city and say, let's talk.
Jason, maybe let me try and clarify something and then make a suggestion. There has to be an underlying designation now, which would be ag, until the specific plan is created. Now, maybe what you're asking is that we make an alternative that says there can be a there must be a specific plan. It must follow the criteria that we glean from this applicant's or owner's set of materials, but it could be processed by the county. Are you asking for that?
Yeah, I am. I guess I am asking for that, which very much mirrors Alternative 4. But
Alternative 4 doesn't require the specific plan. Do you want to have? You can only have one.
As long as I can vote for 2. Because I would take either or.
Okay, but we'll choose one because that's the one we'll put on the table.
Well, I already proposed Alternative 4.
Okay, so you don't want to require a specific plan.
I would settle for that.
Okay, that's good.
I think each of you should only propose one thing. If you each propose 2, it gets
I'd like
really...
to ask Bill, what do you think?
Alternative 4.
Because I don't understand it.
We talk about the importance of a specific plan.
So you have no objection to requiring a specific plan?
I think it needs to be.
Okay, so let's modify the first proposal to require a specific plan.
That's fine, because I do like the specific plan amenities. And I just
okay,
want to constrain
so let's try and start again. Could I suggest that
it's just a question of whether you're being silent about what the underlying designation is.
Okay, it's really late and we're only halfway done.
Hey, no guts, no glory.
I'm gonna start again, and please bear with me. I think I can cover everything everybody wants to vote on. First possibility is Alternative 4 allows the county to do the development under the rough guidelines put forward by the owners, requiring a specific plan, keeping an underlying ag designation until the specific plan is completed, but allowing that specific plan to be processed by the county. That's what we're calling Alternative 4, which is the first one on the list, of course. Alternative 1, which is the second on the list, is a modification of Alternative 1, keeps the land in ag, but states that that's all the county will do, but if the city wants to process something else, it could, without saying what that something is. That's Alternative 1 as modified, second thing on the list. The third one, what we're calling Alternative 5, is the program proposed under Alternative 4, the owner's program, with all the same statements as in our Alternative 4, except that it has to be done only by the city. Still requires a specific plan, still has ag as the underlying designation, but still has a set of policies attached to it, but also states it's to be done only by the city. Finally, we have what we're calling a modified Alternative 2. And Tanya, can you put an X through that green thing just so we know we're not voting on it? The last one is a modified Alternative 2, which has all the same caveats as our Alternative 5. Has to be done by the city, has to be done with a specific plan, has to be done with a series of policies, but is a more focused growth, concentrated along Potter Road and up in this central corner, with actually more units as identified in Alternative 2, and that's as proposed by Emily. And resource conservation in the remainder of the area. Those are the 4 options. We're ready to vote. How many are in favor of the first one on the list, which is Alternative 4 with an allowance for it to be done by the county? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many are in favor of Alternative 1 as modified to state that the city could also do something else? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many are in favor of Alternative 5? The program proposed with the applicants, but with the caveat it has to be done under city auspices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5? And how many are in favor of Alternative 2 as modified to put it under city auspices with a specific plan? 1, 2, 3. Okay. And to summarize, I think that the 2 that got the most votes are actually relatively similar to each other in terms of numbers. They differ in terms of under whose auspices they could occur. But when we go to tell you how many units and what development you've got in a preferred alternative, we can group the number 4 and the number 5 together. Both of those got one got 9 and one got 5, and those two together are 14 votes, and they have essentially the same development program.
Or you could say it's a split vote. The city won by
yeah, you can say that too, but I'm not going to say that.
I like the project, and I just know the politics in the city. So.
Okay, we're moving along, and we're going to do study area 14.
Oh, boy.
This is the Nance Canyon / Highway 99 study area. Alternative 1 follows the existing general plan, which designates the entire study area for agriculture. Alternative 2 designates the area, designates a portion of the area for medium and high density residential, which would allow approximately 1,700 new homes. There's a large area of industrial and some retail, totaling about 1,100 acres, and then the remaining portion of the study area would be resource conservation. Alternative 3 designates about 1,900 acres for industrial uses, with the remaining in resource conservation. The city did provide some input on this study area. They supported the creation of a job center prior to adding more housing in this area. They also wanted to ensure that the land uses are compatible with the landfill, and they included a suggestion to buffer the development adjacent to the landfill. And then they mentioned the need to address market viability in this study area, as well as biological resources. They suggested that development coordinate with the Habitat Conservation Plan. And they also just pointed out that there's a possible realignment of Neal Road north along Highway 99, which could affect the study area. At the open house, there were 21 comments about the study area. The majority of them preferred alternative 1, which is agriculture. They noted concerns about leapfrog development patterns, wastewater, water supply, agriculture, open space, biological resources, and cultural resources. There were 5 comments in support of some level of development, one of which specifically preferred alternative 2. 3 of them just supported the industrial development, and there were 2 suggestions for directing the development along Highway 99. We'll open up for discussion.
Okay, and this is yet another one where the owners have given some additional clarification of what they hoped would be considered. In this case, I'm going to call it alternative 4, although the letter from Mr. Schwartz refers to it as a simplification of the proposal, and he's prepared a map showing an area A that would be a research park, an area B that would be designated for housing, and an area C that would remain in grazing. He did not supply acreages. I don't know, Mr. Schwartz, if you know acreages. I'm trying to read them off the map. I think it's about 1,200 acres of 1,300 acres of residential.
Not that one.
And A is 1,300 acres. And Tanya, how does that compare to our alternative?
It's got some blue in it. Yeah, there you go.
And Mr. Schwartz, do you have a proposal on a density on those 1,300 acres of residential?
There you go.
That is it 1 unit per acre on average? I mean, I'm sure it would be clustered and sited to achieve less than the 1,700, so perhaps 1,000 units or so clustered on those 1,300 acres.
We said clustering such that the majority or more than half of the remaining.
Even within the 1,300. Okay. So, but I think in order to do comparison, we really should throw a number on there. Is 1,000 a good number? 650? 1,000 is fine. Okay, so alternative 4 is 1,300 acres of research park development and 1,000 units clustered on 1,300 acres with the remaining land in grazing. Okay, so that's a 4th proposal that's been not put formally on the floor for your consideration, but is that the owners have suggested that we look at. Any questions or initial comments? Steve?
I got to agree with the city of Chico with regard to delineating a compatibility area with regard around the landfill. It only addresses the landfill shortly in the opening narrative paragraph, but the landfill is the dominant land use in the southern area of 14, and for brevity and not to be redundant, the comment should also be addressed to the northern section of Area 15. and a disclosure too, I work at the landfill. The gate fees pay my salary, so take that with this. But and I'll be long retired by the time this whole thing develops out, hopefully. But it does make sense that the landfill is an economic driver to this county. One of the ones, a viable operating landfill to extend it out to its maximum length is in the entire county's interest. And I think it's really important to ensure that there is a compatibility zone surrounding the landfill. If we want to go to a specific delineation, fine. I think we'll probably address that in policy or zoning, but I think we should forward, whatever plan we forward, we should insist that there is a compatibility area. Otherwise, I think alternative one would be the only way to go.
Okay, given that, do you want to propose alternative one, or do you want to propose a modified alternative 2 or 3 or something else with that compatibility zone?
I think either a modified 2 or 3. I do agree that commercial development around the Durham-Pence interchange, this is 15, but other development within the upper sections of Area 14 would be amenable, but just, you know.
Okay, so I'm not hearing a specific there, so maybe we'll wait to see if I hear something from somebody else. Richard?
I propose alternative 1
Okay.
because this property, in my mind, is against our guiding principles of smart, no leapfrog. It has water issues. It has, well, anyway.
So
lots of issues. I propose 1
for a number of environmental and smart growth issues. John?
I would go with alternative 1 for a very specific reason. I circulated to members of the CAC the current auction flyer for this parcel.
Yes.
And in the parcel, it's described, and this may be a communication error between the property owner and the person trying to sell it, as a master plan community opportunity. Now, it's currently, alternative 1 is its current designation. And I think that we need to be very careful in the communication that comes forward from this group and from the Planning Commission and from the supervisors later. Because we're not actually talking about what the current owners might do. We're talking about whatever hedge fund picks these things up as part of its vulture fund, bottom feeding, let's buy discounted real estate routine. At which point, they were thinking they were going to do something. So I think that rather than a master plan community opportunity, I would propose alternative 1 modified to be a mitigation bank opportunity and enhanced landfill opportunity. I think that the preservation of the integrity of the landfill is vital to the county's interests. I think that having to deal with development that's outside of some sphere of compatibility is going to be disastrous in the future. And when you look at the environmental constraints on this site, when you look at the soils on the site, the water on the site, the services, the prospect of developing and requiring an interchange, which the guys at BKEG tells me that's 20 years and 30 million in today's dollars, highly constrained for transportation, highly constrained environmentally, highly constrained for water, highly constrained for species, and it's got a landfill on it. So I think that for all those reasons, alternative 1 is we reinforce the existing condition that's there on the ground now, the general plan, and we send the right message to the folks who might be thinking about buying this thing.
Okay, so another pretty clear statement in favor of alternative 1. Joanna, you are the keeper of our list of policies we need to be considering. I want to be sure we bring back for Workshop Series 5 the question of a buffer or clear zone around the landfill, because I think I'm hearing that from a couple of committee members as important.
What about adding a little bit of industrial in that alternative 1, John?
Well, Bruce, how about if you just put it forward as an alternative proposal?
Okay.
How much would you like and where?
Well, I'm not sure. I just...
Mr. Schwartz has created a map that extends along Highway 99 and covers about 1,300 acres, still with a buffer of, I don't know, Mr. Schwartz, can you tell us how much distance you have between your Area A and the landfill?
The buffer we proposed in writing when the county brought it up would have been 2,000 feet.
Okay.
The research part proposed is the one studied by the county of Butte and approved it as they looked at research parts in the year 2000.
So I'm guessing that 2,000-foot buffer doesn't allow all of that Area A to be developed. That would extend probably at least up to here. What about within alternative A? How much are you suggesting Somebody needs to suggest a buffer distance that this area A would be constrained by to get up to the landfill. Bruce, do you want to do that?
15, I think.
I don't know if we have the education to do that on a landfill.
An adequate buffer as dictated by staff.
I think the half a mile that the county says is
half a mile is a good initial guess. Okay, so I think that's going to constrain the 1,300 acres, but would be a beginning number, and we might end up with 600, 700, 900 acres of research park area. Bruce, is that your proposal?
Yeah, that'd be all right.
I do have one question for Mr. Schwartz, because I sit on other task force and understand the need for research parks, and I know that Mr. Schwartz has lots of experience in that. What are you proposing as a research park? Chico is in so need of it, and there's very few, I think, opportunities.
The pattern that we use for this is the Stanford Research Park, which is essentially set in the same type of terrain, oak-covered hills, rolling foothills. What industry's looking for is a place with stable rules so that they can come in and build. I think the proposal as put forth before was for 17 million square feet. I don't know where that came from, but that's probably, we could do well with 30% of that.
And obviously, they would be looking for a college. I mean, we have a hard time keeping our college kids here, and we've set some policies of economics and sustainability, and that has to play into this. And I'm so focused on that part of it. Is that important to this, the college aspect of this community?
Sure it is. I mean, Chico and Butte County is a wonderful place. People are going to want to live here, and there really isn't a place today when industry comes to town, what they're really told is, dance with us for several years and maybe we'll get there. And they just need stuff to be on the shelf. You don't go to a shoe store and a guy says, you know, I've got 3 left shoes and I may have a right shoe in a year and a half. You have to have goods prepared. What we're looking for as an owner is, in fact, if a political decision gets made that this community is interested in a business and research park, we can then begin to engineer and fund infrastructure.
How are you going to do that if it's sold? It's up for auction.
Yeah.
There are three offers for the auction. One for 64 acres, one for 264 acres, and one for 1,180. We're in probably the most tumultuous financial times since the 1930s. A month ago, we watched Bear Stearns go out of existence in a week's time. We're looking to bring new investment by selling, and with the funds that come to us, we'll invest in the infrastructure. What's offered is a small amount, a medium amount, and a large amount. It's a public display to see if there's local interest in doing this. There's no guarantee that there's a sale. You can look at it if you want as a way of getting a marketing study. What is the price? We're trying to find it. We think there's going to be builders failing at an increasing rate. We're pretty sure banks are going to be failing at an increasing rate. So bringing new investment here, now is the right time to do it. Offering things for sale is not un-American, and it's less than 20% of the land we own.
Okay, if we could, I know there are questions. I just want to remind all of us that it's 10 o'clock, and this study area, I believe, will get us beyond halfway done, but we have 5 to go after this. So if there are questions for Mr. Schwartz, please ask, but it's at all our peril regarding
I have a question about the research park. You had the material in the research park identified. You had letters from the local presidents, I think.
No, that's 15.
That's actually study area 15, which wants to build a
Your research park, then, is a completely private venture?
It is.
Okay, I would like to, on the issue of research parks, I've been talking with some people trying to get some information, and my understanding is that remote research parks are a pretty long shot, that a majority of research parks that have been done successfully are contiguous to urban areas. And we're not in any way. I mean, to get students out there, and I'm commenting, Mr. Schwartz, also on the next product, line review, the next property as
Study
well.
area.
So this is a dual comment that remotely located research parks are very difficult to sell and difficult to be successful.
They succeed,
especially on the next one where we have, you'd have to get Chico State students and professors. They want to be on campus. They don't want to be driving out there unless it's unless it's a botanical research park. So I kind of question. I haven't read all of the study. A lot of it just arrived. I have serious questions about that. I'll let that go.
I want to see if there are
I would
other
like
questions.
to make
I'm
one
sorry.
more comment,
No.
please.
No, please.
Yeah, why?
I'm sorry, Bill.
They've been talking all night.
Because, Bill, Mr. Schwartz is at the microphone. I want to let him sit down. If anyone has a question for Mr. Schwartz, I'd like to ask those. Just questions. Let him answer. Let him sit down, and then I'll take your comment first. Do you have a question for Mr. Schwartz?
I have one.
No.
I just have one real quick.
Okay, please.
Just out of curiosity, here we are as a governing body, in a sense, telling Mr. Schwartz that you can't do this. Now, tell me this as a private person and as an investor. You're going to do something that you feel that you can turn a profit on. You're not going to do something that you think is going to fail, correct? I mean, we're saying, well, and we're making this decision for you. I mean, this is, I always wonder why government gets involved with somebody, you can't do this. Hey, you're a businessman, obviously been a successful businessman. You can see how this works. I mean, I have a real problem saying.
Yeah, that's if it's zoned industrial park.
Okay, I'm going to ask that you clarify. I'm sorry.
That's great ag ground.
Please,
Throw a lot of
stop.
stuff out
I
there.
want to clarify, Steve, what is the question for Mr. Schwartz? Let's let him answer it. We'll ask whatever other questions we have, and then he can sit down.
I guess the question for me, that it's not great ag ground. We run cows for 3 months out of the year. But the other side of it is, the question I have for you is, you see this as a viable product you can sell later on, and you're auctioning it off now. The way I understand it is, or you're making it available to people as a funding mechanism to get you through to that point. Is that what am I understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Schwartz? Bruce.
How many acres could you live with for this industrial park site?
What's a minimum?
Yes.
Let me just give you a little background on it.
A short answer would be great.
It'll be short. The area we believe the best is between Highway 99 and the major power lines that roughly parallel Highway 99. So that's kind of, and they're approximately 2,000 feet east of 99. So we think those are the rational barriers. The northern barrier would be Skyway, and if you want to shorten it up from the south, away from the landfill.
Okay.
I hope that was responsive. If I could make one more.
Well, I don't think it was. Do you have a sense, and maybe the answer is no, of the minimal marketable or usable area for the kind of research park that you want to build? Does that need to be a 1,000-acre facility? Could it be a 500-acre facility? Could it be a 300-acre facility to build the research park? I think that's Bruce's question. Am I right, Bruce? To build the research park you want to build, how big does it need to be? Not how much land is out there, but how big does it need to be to build the product you want to build?
Needs to be 1,100 acres.
1,100 acres.
We want to do the best one.
Okay. So if a 2,000-foot buffer makes 1,100 acres impossible, then we shouldn't designate it at all. Is that right?
2,000 feet won't, so that's fine.
Okay.
I'll take my comment now. I'll take my comment now.
Okay. Are we done with questions?
My comment.
I have one.
Okay, question. No, Bill, we're going to take questions, and then you will be first.
Mr. Schwartz, have you looked into the possibilities of mitigation banking and what kind of return that would give to your investment?
That is, if the land were used as a mitigation bank site.
Yeah.
I have not as a business opportunity for me. No, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Schwartz? Bill has the floor. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Bill has the floor first.
It's short. I would just remind everybody that historically,
I'm sorry. Mr. Schwartz, thank you. I would like you to leave the mic so that we don't have confusion about who's speaking.
I just want to remind everybody that historically and currently, CSU is a teaching university, not a research university, number one. And well, no, he's calling it a research park. He's identified with the university.
Well, I think to be clear that it's the owners of Area 15 who have stated
that's
that
true.
the university might be a partner.
I'm just setting the stage
okay.
for that also.
Now, I want to be fair. I think it was somebody else was trying to make comments. Was it Steve when I shut you up, when I shut up Bill too? Okay, we'll go on then. Richard, I guess, is next.
I'd just like one last comment, and then I'd love to go to a vote. I'd like to point out that there's a research park in the next proposed study area, 15. It already has an interchange. This one doesn't. I'd like to reiterate alternative 1 and propose we move on.
Okay, so we've got two proposals on the floor, alternative 1 and a second one which is mostly ag, as in alternative 1, but with the research park proposed by Mr. Swartz, something less than 1,300 acres, perhaps as much as 1,100, within that area between the power lines and the Highway 99, with a minimum 2,000-foot buffer from the landfill and going up to the Skyway. Those are the two proposals on the floor. Are there further comments? Bruce?
Yeah, I'd like to amend that down to the 1,100 acres.
1,100.
Instead of 13.
Okay, fine.
And is it possible to downsize this study area to that acreage?
Well, the study area needs to remain as it is, but if what you ultimately end up doing is leaving the rest in ag, then that's no change from the current general plan. Mike?
The sphere of influence runs along very close to the Skyway on the north, then down the east line, cleared halfway down the property, right?
That's right, only on the other side of Highway 99. None of study area 14 is in the city's sphere.
This is not far out. This is right next to the city where they say they want to go to. I don't have a problem with a research park right there next to the city.
Okay. So you're in favor of the second alternative on the table here. Other comments?
Okay. You know it says alternative 1 and 1?
Yeah. It's a hybrid of alternatives 1 and 3 or 4.
Call it 4.
Well, I'm not sure what he's got yet.
Let's cross out the number. It is ag in most of the area with a research park along Highway 99, between Highway 99 and the power lines, going from 2,000 feet north of the landfill up to the Skyway. It has no number. Okay? Are we ready to vote?
David, I just have one question real quick.
Yes.
What are we doing with the housing element part of it out here?
You mean the residential component?
Yeah.
There is no residential component in either of the alternatives that's on the table. You can certainly add a third alternative to the table.
Well, I was curious what happened to that deal. I missed the ship on that. We had nobody that was interested in that deal. Is that what happened there? No discussion on that.
I think it would help out the industrial park.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you talk about not people driving to work or doing whatever, you're right there. You know, I don't know the proper term.
I hear a third idea coming onto the table.
You hate to hear that, don't you? But
no,
to me, it makes sense to me. If you're going to have this project, which I think we need it for economic growth, and we need to have jobs besides retail in our area. And if you're worried about people driving and clogging the roads and all these, that'd be a nice tie-in.
Okay, so I think you're re-proposing Mr. Schwartz's alternative 4, which has the 1,100-acre industrial park, plus up to 1,000 units of housing on the 1,300 acres that he's shown in Area B, appropriately clustered.
Correct.
Okay, so that is a third alternative that's on the table.
On Cal Water.
Excuse me?
On Cal Water.
On Cal Water.
Does it have to be
that it must be served by...
to be on
that you're saying water. One of the caveats there is that it has to be served by Cal Water's company. It could not be its own private water system.
Yeah. If it's right next to the city, it can be done.
I mean, is that the maker of the proposal? Do you accept that as an amendment?
I'm not familiar with, in all honesty, how Cal Water, if it can get out that far or whatever. Well, I'm not aware of
I might suggest for the sake of expedience, Mike, that we not add that to the proposal and it could be worked out later.
Fine.
Okay. Do people want to discuss this further or are we ready to vote?
Vote.
Ready to vote. 3 options on the floor. One is agriculture only, one is ag with industrial, and the third is still a lot of ag but with both industrial and residential. All in favor of alternative 1, agriculture only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All in favor of the alternative that's mostly agriculture but with roughly 1,100 acres in industrial. No residential. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all in favor of very similar to Mr. Schwartz's proposal with a large amount of ag, but also the industrial and residential. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this one where if we add the last two, do we get anywhere close to the first one? Is that a problem? 9 versus 11. So I think pretty clearly the majority still prefers the alternative 1. And we're ready to move on.
How about that?
Thank you. You doing okay?
It's a waste of land, is open space.
My estimate would be at this point we're going to finish at 11:30.
Oh!
Yeah. That's what I have in the pool.
Okay, so study area 15 is the Hamlin Canyon Highway 99 study area. Alternative 1 designates the entire study area, all for agriculture. This mostly follows the existing general plan. However, as we noted in the errata memo that we submitted today, there is a small 52-acre parcel in the southwest area here that is currently designated for industrial, although the remainder is designated for agriculture.
Where was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's right in this area. It's about 52 acres. It's a single parcel, and it is currently designated for industrial. Alternative 2 would designate, would have a residential component with medium, high, and high-density residential, allowing about 9,000 new homes. There would be a large amount of industrial encompassing about 1,500 acres, and the remaining portions of the study area would be designated for resource conservation. Under Alternative 3, the residential densities would decrease to low-density residential and would allow approximately 1,500 new homes. The industrial and resource conservation designations from Alternative 2 would remain. I also want to highlight in the errata memo that was submitted today, the summary table scores in the alternatives evaluation report for the schools were incorrectly set at 0 for all of the alternatives in the summary table itself, but the chapter text was correct when it provided the scores of a C for alternative 2 and a D for alternative 3, and again that's for the schools. So the city has provided some input about the study area. They have agreed with some comments from supervisors that if this were developed as proposed by the developer, it would constitute a new city concept and require self-supporting infrastructure. And they also, again, mentioned the need to buffer development from the landfill. We received 18 comments about this study area at the open house. The majority of them preferred Alternative 1, which is agriculture, noting concerns about water supply, open space, scenic resources, biological resources, agriculture, cultural resources, and groundwater recharge. There was some support for Alternatives 2 and 3, one of which mentioned the industrial development in particular. There were some comments that supported a modified alternative with a lesser amount of industrial development, and then a suggestion to direct development to Highway 99.
Okay, thank you. And this one, I just want to make sure we all understand. I don't believe we have a clarification on this one from an owner creating an alternative 4.
We do.
Yes,
we do.
Oh, we do?
Research park, 300 to 400 feet of business and R&D.
300 to 400 acres of business park only with no housing component.
Right. Research park.
Research park. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad I asked because I obviously, now that you say it, I remember reading that. Comments, Richard? Yes.
I propose.
We can take clarifications if asked by the CAC. Richard.
I propose Alternative 1 for the very same reasons we did Alternative 1 for study area 14.
Okay. Yes.
I think it's leapfrog development, and we can put it in our back pockets by putting it back in agriculture. They can always come when the research park is fundable and working, we can come back and do it then.
Okay. And I want to clarify, given that there was this discrepancy in the report, is your proposal, Richard, exactly Alternative 1, which converts that 52 acres down in the corner to ag?
Oh, no, excuse me.
It's exactly as the general plan is today, including the 52 acres left with industrial.
Richard, not to put you on the spot, but weren't you not in support of the other project based on this one had an interchange?
That's right.
Yes, I did say this one has an interchange, but I still don't think, for the reasons Todd said, that a research park, a remote research park, would have any real chance of success.
Okay, so if it doesn't have success and it doesn't get built, then what?
Yeah. But by parcelizing it, now we can still have our research park when the time is right by still designating it ag. I mean, I think a viable research park is a great idea, but I don't think it's viable right now, given the economy and given the state of the world.
Okay, rather than a lot of back and forth.
I would suggest that Oroville has 2 research park areas already available.
Yeah.
By the airport and Louisiana Pacific.
Yes, okay. Spectrophysics building. Yeah.
Scott.
There are some letters in your packet which might suggest that California State University Chico supports a research park in this area. If you read the letter carefully from President Zing, President Zing supports the concept and the study of a research park. It does not say that the university is going to partner with Eagle Creek, only that it would consider doing so. Mr. Schwartz had also earlier approached the university and again did so after Eagle Creek. Were he successful in building a research park, Chico State would also want to enter into a conversation with him. So, while I might think a research park is a good idea, I think we really need to let the market drive this one. I agree with Bill that Oroville has areas in which industrial/research parks can grow, and I do wish Mr. Schwartz well because I think that would be a wonderful benefit. But in this particular parcel, I think the reality of a research park in that area is slim to none. I know what the faculty's position, or most of the faculty's position, on this remote location is, and it's not real positive. And it's also an area in which grass and animals do grow, and agriculture is probably the best use for this particular parcel.
John.
Well, I think that with regard to the opportunities for a research park in Oroville, I don't think we should overestimate the mystical power of the Chico State logo applied to a building, because there is one of those logos on a relatively empty building in Oroville by the airport. So what constitutes a research park in today's world, and I have to confess, I find Mr. Paul to be an engaging and earnest young man, but after a couple of hours of conversation in which I tried to explain that the state of the practice for research parks nowadays with universities is what you'd see at Johns Hopkins, where they engage Robert Charles Lesser, probably the preeminent market research folks for real estate, and said, look, if we're going to do this as Johns Hopkins and we're going to really do research, research has been found to be kind of a contact sport when you turn it into reality, so we need to do it in urbanized areas. So there are universities that are doing it very much in town and using that as an economic development driver. Now, the supervisors in the city, I think, are quite correct to say that if this is a new town, a new city, it needs to have self-supporting infrastructure. In the conversation, the lengthy conversation with Mr. Paul, I pointed out that there was, probably before he was born, the spectacular failure of the HUD new towns in the 70s, where even with hundreds of millions of dollars of bond guarantees that were all called and all foreclosed, these things went down, with a tremendous thud. When you try to make it all happen out away from existing services, away from existing homes, away from, and you got to make everything happen all at once, it is such a long shot that unless other development catches up with you to buoy you up, as it did in the case of 2 out of 14, they fail. So, and then the material circulated describing the importance of sustainability and building this under LEED standards and everything else. The standard for LEED development in new towns, in new development, is LEED ND, and I'm very familiar with what the requirements of that are, and this project would not make it past the prerequisites. It would not be considered for LEED. So with all these things in play, I would echo Richard's point on the alternative 1 with keeping the existing 50 acres of industrial.
Okay, we've had 3 comments in favor of alternative 1 with the 50 acres. Does somebody want to make a proposal for something else?
I'd like to make a proposal for the applicants with the comment, we have, Butte College is right down the road. Talk about something outside of the box, out in the middle of nowhere, working. This seems to fit in that same box.
Okay.
Along with, we're on a corridor here. We're so in need of these things. It's 7 minutes away. We're not talking a half hour away.
Okay. And to clarify, I assume this would be the 400 acres that are closest to the interchange, the southwest corner, and running along 99 in a linear fashion. Is that right, Jason? Yeah. Okay, and it's 400 acres. So that's a second proposal. It's really an alternative 4. Bill?
Well, I'm going to go with Jason on this one, and I have a lot of respect for Mr. McNall. I just don't know that he can represent the college or any college and say that they would not engage. I know that he's got the impression from faculty and that the letter may not read that they are ready to engage, but research and development parks aren't strictly educational. They aren't strictly engineering. These could be combined business efforts along with student efforts, so it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to the college.
Okay.
I think we should keep our educational systems educational and not industrial. Butte College is a junior college. Much of the faculty at Butte College already is faculty at CSU, so that doesn't mean anything. Butte College should restructure itself so it can train the technicians and the other people that will support the infrastructure that we need to have businesses come in through free enterprise.
Pia?
I'm going to go back to some of the open space concepts. I live out in the Dayton area, and I drive this corridor very often. And for me, the landscape that is seen there with the buttes, that viewscape, is the defining viewscape of Butte County. And for us to chop it up with industrial and development will to me degrade what defines Butte County. And so I'm very much in favor of keeping it open space and not having the 52 acres of industrial, but having it straight agricultural. So I propose a straight alternative 1.
All right, so that's a third option on the table.
Pia, there's businesses right across the road from there that the bottle.
I understand that.
They're not going to go away just because you want to have a beautiful view. And the developer could come in with trees and low-level buildings. We don't know what their concepts are, right?
I understand that.
There has to be some room for growth at that interchange. This is a massive interchange there.
Okay, we've got 3 alternatives on the table. A lot of good discussion about them. Any other discussion before we take a vote?
Just a question. Is alternative 4 with any type of specific plan overlay?
Yes. I mean, is it? And that's not how I had understood it.
Well, Jason's plan.
No.
So the industrial park that we're thinking of could be like S&S across the street or whatever it's called. I mean.
That sounds like that's the proposal. Okay. I mean, I don't think they're wanting S&S across the street, but the proposal is to allow a relatively generic industrial designation. Okay. Any Donna?
If the representative has anything else to add that we haven't heard.
You'd like to hear it? Do you have anything to add that we haven't heard?
Absolutely.
Why does that not surprise me?
Who wins at midnight? What's the question?
The question is, would the representative like to add anything? And the answer was yes, and so there was an invitation to do so.
My understanding was that...
Scott, I'm sorry. We've had the CAC member who's asked for a brief response from
another presentation?
Yes, it's been requested.
Thank you. The alternative 4 that I put out is a concept that's actually going to benefit the whole county. There were 6 designations for research parks in 2001. Only 2 of them were even considered in this general plan update. To me, that's a shame. There were 2 north of Thermalito in Oroville, and this one is the only one that actually got a lot of support. This isn't something that someone's going to get rich off. It's something that's actually going to combine the county and actually create a incubation program to then transfer technology back into Chico, back into Oroville, Biggs Gridley, Paradise. Everybody can win from this. It's not a selfish proposal for something. We're saying let's look along Durham-Pence, not along 99 necessarily. Research parks are successful on as little as 100 acres, and despite what Mr. Hall thinks, there are most of the successful research parks that I have seen actually are outside of urban areas in a central location to give back to all of the communities. I would just recommend that if you don't support this area, designate some research and industrial somewhere and ask for that specific plan. This is something that you can actually showcase Butte County. Everybody passes this intersection when they come through, and you can actually have a bigger concept out there. And I just want to have that conversation. I hope that you go home and you look through these packets and you reconsider, any of you that aren't in support of this project. This is something that will only benefit the area. And if it goes into Chico or Oroville, the whole county is not going to support it. That's why places like, this end up in the middle of the county, is there's battles over who gets the technology.
Thank you very much. Any further questions?
Let's vote.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote, but Sue has a final comment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is there a question here?
Yes, this is technology so specifically intended located in the center of the county, because otherwise it wouldn't find its way to other communities that already have all kinds of services?
No, it's in the center of the county, actually, so that it can benefit the other areas. It's on a neutral territory, and actually, if you're going to showcase sustainability, renewable energy, putting it next to high voltage power lines in a landfill is actually a pretty good idea, because you'll walk out of this demonstration building and you look around and you see the alternative. I don't know if Mr. Steve Rodowicz, if you have any projections on how to slow down the amount of dumping at the landfill, but I would say it's going to take a groundswell of public education, and a facility like this educates the public. So that's how you stop a landfill from expanding. To expand a landfill is like adding another lane to a freeway. It's not going to solve the problem. You need to educate.
Any other questions for the owner's representative? None. Thank you. Sue?
You've got down there 400 acres for industrial. This talks about housing. How many houses is alternative for?
There is no proposal from any committee member for any housing.
None at all.
None made so far by a committee member.
So the rest of it would be
agriculture.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? We've got 3 on the table. We're going to vote. So these are not really in order of intensity. They're jumping around, but so the first is alternative 1, but modified to include the 52 acres of industrial land that's already designated at the southwestern corner. The second is the 400-acre industrial area proposed by the applicants, or by the owners, and otherwise with the remainder in agriculture. And finally is alternative 1 as drawn without any industrial in it. Alan?
Does the 400 acres make the 52 acres of industrial go away?
It's over the same land.
Yes, it makes the industrial go away, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
David?
Yes, Bruce.
The way alternative 1 reads, the existing general plan designates this study for agriculture and open land and does not now allow a significant number of new units. The existing general plan has the M1 designation in it.
That we tried to clarify that earlier about 20 minutes ago, and we obviously haven't done quite a good enough job yet. But that is absolutely true. Both of these options have been put on the table now. One is to maintain exactly what's in the general plan, which is actually different from what we said was alternative 1, but which we did correct in errata that you have before you, and which Tanya spoke about in her opening remarks. The other option is to do alternative 1 as documented in your materials, which is actually different from the general plan as it exists today, and which again we did clarify in the errata.
So which one has the industrial in it?
The one that says modified to include industrial has the industrial in it.
But that's the one that has the industrial in it, is my point.
Right, and then this one does not have industrial in it because it says no industrial.
Okay. The existing general plan is got the industrial.
Okay, are we ready now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, how many in favor of the actual existing general plan, which is mostly agriculture but does have 52 acres of industrial in it? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many are in favor of the 400 acres of industrial? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And how many are in favor of the all agriculture, no industrial? 1, 2. Okay, and even if we were to combine the votes on the two versions of Alternative 1, that would still be 9, which is less than 10. So the 400 acres is the primary alternative that will move forward. Whenever Tanya is done writing, we will move on to study area 16. I think we're in the final stretch now. We've got 4 relatively small ones. I'm still wagering on an 11:30 closing.
I lost. I'm out.
Usually one's loud. There is a pool over here about the closing.
All right, so study area 16 is the Oroville-Chico Highway / Highway 99 study area. Alternatives 1 and 2 are the same, and they follow the existing general plan, which designates this for agriculture. Under Alternative 3, there would be approximately 150 acres of industrial development, and the remaining would be resource conservation. I also want to highlight that the errata memo that was circulated in the full CAC packet last Friday indicated that the alternatives evaluation report score for water supply should have been a D for Alternative 3 because the water district that we discussed in this area only serves agricultural users, so it really couldn't serve municipal water supply. The city provided one comment on this study area, just noting that the possible realignment of Neal Road could affect this study area. And at the open house, there were 2 comments, one of which preferred Alternative 1, which is Alternatives 1 and 2, which is agriculture, citing the proximity to the Chico urban area, which is somewhat contradictory. And then one comment supported low-density development. And we'll open it up for discussion.
Any discussion, comments, questions? Scott?
I move Alternative 1, 2.
Alternative 1, 2.
I second it.
Seconded. Any discussion? Any other concepts? Do people want to vote already?
Yes.
I may be losing my 11:30 bet. All in favor of Alternatives 1 and 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Do I have an abstention, Mr. Evans?
He's asleep.
Excuse me? That's right, but it all happened so quickly, nobody put the other one on the table.
You blinked.
Are you voting for Alternative 3? All right. We had 18 with 1 abstention. I think we're ready for study area 17.
The whole action team.
Study area 17 is the Durham study area. Alternatives. This is actually just Alternative 1, not Alternatives 1 and 2. This is the existing general plan, which designates medium high, and high density residential in the town center. It also designates very low density on the outskirts of town, and that's this lighter green color here. And then the darker green out here and there is all agriculture. There's also some retail, industrial, and public uses in the town center. This alternative would allow approximately 50 new homes. Under Alternative 2, the residential densities in the town center would increase and would allow approximately 300 new homes. Everything else would remain as in Alternative 1. And then in Alternative 3, the outer areas that are currently in agricultural designation would change to rural residential, very low and low density residential, and this would allow approximately 500 new homes. I have another comment from the errata memo. This is similar to what happened in study area 16, where the water supply score was incorrect because the water district in this area, it only serves agricultural uses. So the all alternatives should have received a score of D for water supply. At the open house, there were 4 comments, 2 of which preferred alternative 1, the existing general plan, citing concerns about water, sewer, circulation, and market viability. There was 1 comment that supported 1 to 3 acre lots, which would be our very low or low density residential designation, and mentioned that growth is needed to support the schools, but this commenter was also opposed to 5 acre lots. And there was 1 comment that mentioned the need to maintain viable agricultural uses. So we'll open it up for discussion.
Which one of these parallels the D2N plan?
It is the first one that's the same as the D2N.
I move acceptance of alternative 1 modified for the D2N plan.
I second that.
I third it. I don't know that it needs to be modified. It is the D2N plan. It's the Durham-Dayton-Nelson plan, which was, as was stated before, a vast community effort conducted 5 years ago, I'm going to say. 10 years. Time flies when you're having fun. So that's the proposal on the floor.
I have one question.
Yes.
Each one of these, each one of them speaks to 50 acres for commercial and industrial purposes. At the community meeting down there in Durham, I got the feeling they wanted a little bit more retail space. Does this 50 acres take that into account, or is that what's existing now?
It's the existing general plan, but I think that there's some capacity. I mean, I think they're 2 different things. I think people wanting more retail is saying that they'd like some retail to be both put into some spaces that are perhaps underutilized, or also built new retail buildings on land that's already designated for that retail.
I got the impression they wanted a little bit more space that could be retail.
Okay, well, if that's the case, that would not happen under alternative 1. Or any of the alternatives.
Okay. All right.
I think there is sufficient infill that can happen with retail space.
Okay, so the proposal on the floor is to stick with what's in the existing plan, which is the same as the D2N plan. Yes. Any other comment? We ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor? That's everybody, right? Sue, are you voting? Yeah. Okay. Anybody voting no or abstaining? Okay, none. Tanya, you're up again.
Study area 18 is the Durham-Dayton/Highway 99 study area. Alternatives 1 and 2 are the same. It follows the existing general plan, which is the designation of agriculture. Under alternative 3, this is similar to a preliminary development proposal for this site, which includes both retail and industrial uses. There is no resource conservation or agriculture. At the open house, there were 9 comments. The majority of them preferred alternative 1, which is alternatives 1 and 2, which is agriculture, and they cited concerns about sewer, water circulation, water supply, groundwater recharge, agriculture, and biological resources. There was 1 comment that preferred alternative 3, the development proposal, due to the freeway access, and 1 comment that supported a combination of alternatives 2 and 3. And we'll open it up for discussion.
I move 1, 2.
We have a proposal for 1 and 2, the agriculture designation.
I second it.
Second. Any discussion or alternatives? Bill?
Well, I'll be the odd one out here, but once again, we have a modern planned interchange designed to absorb and provide for light industrial and retail. And by keeping it in ag, we're going to be limiting that. I know it could be M1 and then somebody could come in and do something with it, but right across the road there, those other businesses have a lot of water. They have viable businesses or they wouldn't be there. So I don't believe that you could not do it on that southwest corner or any of those corners, actually.
Well, and I want to clarify, I mean, you can certainly propose alternative 3 as stated and leave it a generic industrial or retail. You can also, through an overlay process or something else, put whatever restrictions you want to on it. So I'm not sure which of those you're proposing.
We're just going to go with
Just going with alternative 3.
What did we put for in Area 15?
In Area 15, you accepted the 400 acres proposed without any particular restriction around it.
I thought we had a restriction for a research and development park as the
that was the concept that's been proposed by the applicant, but we asked very specifically, are you restricting this? And the answer was no.
Yeah. So,
that included 52 acres, yes.
Considering our brave effort on 15, I think that going with 1 and 2 makes a lot more sense because you're going to need to preserve every possible economic shred of vitality you can for that industrial research park thing. And you shouldn't be deleting with additional entitlements.
Okay, so that's another comment in favor of alternatives 1 and 2.
3.
Mike?
3. I think the access was relocated.
John, please. John, I'm sorry. I know it's late.
The reroute of the access to the Butte family farm was put away from adjacent to the freeway, which left a strip that, for me, seemed to be appropriate for some commercial.
You're talking this strip here, right?
I think it's not shown here. It would be kind of parallel to the on-ramp, the southbound on-ramp, but removed from it, leaving a strip of land that's isolated from the balance of the...
that would be in here, I believe.
Right. And I would like to see that actually be retail. So I would modify number 3 to allow retail between the on-ramp and the relocated access to Butte Farm.
And you're saying to restrict that to retail only, while the rest could be retail or industrial. Is that right?
Well, the rest of it can stay as ag.
Okay, so your proposal would be a combination of these two where it would be mostly ag, but just the strip down here would be retail only.
Yes.
Okay.
What is that other parted off piece, the long thin one? That is isolated?
No.
Isolated by a freeway off-ramp or by Pence Road coming out?
Tanya, do you know? I don't know. I'm sorry. Is that a roadway?
That's the Durham-Dayton Road.
Yeah, that's already
But it's sandwiched between the Durham-Dayton Road and the existing industrial.
I think what Mike is talking about is long 99.
But I'm past Mike's conversation. But there is a section now between the Durham-Dayton Highway and the existing industrial that is its own little strip.
Yes.
The Butte Road goes down here, if that's south.
No,
down there. Yes.
I know, he's got his own laser. How's he do that? You can't have one of those. We're going to confiscate those at the door from now on.
Just been waiting
all right, I'm sorry. So I don't know this area as well as I probably should. I'm not sure either what this road is nor where the road that Mike's talking about is. Does someone know this definitively?
Yes. Is this south?
Yes, hold on.
Is this south down here?
South is at the bottom.
Okay. This is, and that's the west side of the highway, right?
That's right.
Correct.
Okay. Butte Family Farm is down here.
Farther down.
Well, it's down here.
Yes.
Now they have a new road.
So does that mean that the road Mike's talking about is not even in the study area?
Yes.
No. Correct.
Sorry, Mike.
Butte Family Farm is north of...
Yeah, it starts back up.
It's right by the 140.
Oh boy, none of us know this as well as I should, and none of us know.
David, if need be,
Did they know?
None of us know what that is either.
David,
Does anyone in this room think they know any better? We got a taker over here.
That white line is the new road that goes to Butte Farm.
That's what I thought.
No.
Okay, it should be considered as it's not.
Well, what? The white is the road, and what's on either side of the road is land that could be developed. And I do also believe, although I gave up on this a long time ago, but I'm going to come back and say it, that this is the road that Mike Evans is talking about, and this is the strip of land of which he is speaking.
The Butte Family Farm is down by 149 interchange. It's between the Durham, the Butte College exit and 149. This is, maybe I'm in the wrong spot, but I thought this was the Butte College exit.
If you look at the larger map, you do see that
yeah, I know, but as far
the
as
Durham-Pence Road in this area does come down. Okay, the Durham-Pence Road is this road up here, and then it swings down to the interchange. The Durham-Pence Road, is it called that on this side? Durham-Dayton Road over on this side is its name. It is along this alignment.
They put a brand new road here.
Durham-Dayton Road is along this alignment and then swings down to come to the interchange.
What farm is out of that picture there? Yes, in the gray area, where I originally pointed it out.
If you look on this other map we've distributed, you can see very clearly that the Durham-Dayton Road, as it comes to the interchange, is coming along here, swings south to get to the interchange and to cross 99. And I think that that's consistent with the claims that there is a separate road built to get to the Butte Family Farm, and that would be this road, which would separate this piece of land from here.
No. It's right
No?
here.
Okay.
That new road comes right down here. Butte Family Farm is but it goes right before
But
you
it's
get
not
to
done yet.
149.
All right.
Vote.
We're going to vote. We're not going to be swayed by the facts.
Well,
I like that attitude.
but-
Okay, let me suggest the following. If there is a feeling that we want to do something that is a division of this property, we will come back and look at that with you in detail at the meeting on May 1st. If, however, most of you want to leave it either all ag or all industrial retail, then that will be a moot point and we won't have to study it further.
Alternate 3 is on the list right now, right?
Yes,
Just
alternate 3 is on the list as just the whole thing industrial retail. And there is a final proposal to do a portion as industrial retail with the rest in ag. If that's the one that a majority of you want, we'll have to come back with a map for you to approve.
But David, just bear with me a second. I mean, if everybody wants some commercial, as we start to look at this map in terms of what's just gone on, you've got a casino proposed down for the corner of 149 and Highway 70. You've now got, under Alternative 3, substantial industrial commercial proposed for this corner. You've also proposed a 400-acre industrial park right up the road. You're going to end up, if all of this were to go through, you've got an industrial corridor leading all the way from Durham-Pence interchange into the city of Chico.
No.
Well, what are you proposing under Alternative 3 then?
I agree with Scott, and I was going to say that this is exactly that view shed that I'm trying to protect, because once we start chopping up these pieces, we're going to lose that view, because this is going to be a developed corridor. Because as we start looking at the whole picture instead of just these pieces, we have a casino that we may or may not be able to block. We're punching holes in the argument to block it because we're looking at more and more development. The more we develop, the more likelihood that the casino will come forward. We're paving our recharge areas. This is critical habitat for sandhill crane. I know that I've been to enough meetings to know that there are sandhill cranes that overwinter on this triangle, and Department of Fish and Game is looking at this specific piece. So there are constraints out there, and there's consequences to these developments. And so you need to look at the entire corridor and what we're doing to what defines Butte County. And it's not just one piece and 400 acres here and there. It's the entire 99 strip and 149. And so I urge us to, especially if we're going to look at the bigger picture on May 1st, to start thinking about, maybe we should look at the recharge areas and where we can grow away from the recharge areas with our industrial.
And this would be an argument in favor of alternative 1 in this case, the ag designation.
Yes.
Is that right?
Vote.
Okay.
Vote.
Other comments before we vote?
I think we already gave away what you're talking about, Pio, and we gave 400 acres across the way, and there's already the existing industry on that corner. You might as well say, hell with it.
Well, you know,
Well, if it goes, it goes.
how do we justify, you know, saying no to a casino, and then how do we justify saying, you know, it's just going to develop that whole corridor?
That casino issue is not something that you want to bring up in this discussion, because I could stand here all night and talk about why I don't want one.
Well, what's the difference between it doesn't matter if it's a casino or if it's a research park. It's the same effect on the land. It's the same effect on the aquifer. It's the same effect on the traffic. Just down the road.
No. I think what Pia is saying is that if, as a body, we say okay to a 400-acre research park on the same types of soils and the same recharge area and the same basic land, when the casino comes forward and Butte County says, no, you can't because you're impacting the recharge area, but the casino proponents are going to say, well, you guys said okay to a research park that impacts the land the same way we are. I think that's what Pia is trying to say. We're not being consistent
What's the
with what
difference
the
between
county
a
is trying
research
to
park and a casino when you're looking at the impact on the land?
You guys just want me to win this prediction that we're not going to go home until 11:30, right? That's nice of you, but I don't mind losing on that prediction. We ready to vote? Okay, we've got 3 alternatives on the table. We've got alternative 1, all ag. We've got alternative 3, all mixture of retail and residential. And we have what we will ultimately map as an alternative that would put a small amount of retail in with the rest as ag. All in favor of alternative 1, all ag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All in favor of alternative 3, all industrial and retail. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all in favor of a modified version with a smaller amount of industrial retail and the rest in ag. 1, and that's all. I still want to commit that we're going to figure out where that road to the Brook Family Farm is.
Bruce knows where it is.
It's not there.
It's going to be somewhere. We're going to find it. We're on to the last study area.
Let's just vote.
Yeah, let's just vote.
Okay, study area 19, Durham, Pence, Highway 99. Alternatives 1 and 2, again, are the same. It's the existing general plan, which designates it for agriculture. Alternative 3 is similar to a preliminary development proposal, which designates a portion of the study area for medium-density residential, allowing about 900 new homes, and a large retail area along Highway 99. At the open house, there were 9 comments about the study area. The majority prefer alternative 1, which is agriculture. They noted concerns about water, infrastructure, public services, wastewater, market viability, agriculture, and biological resources. And there was also some support for a combined industrial/open space designation.
All right. I need to let you know that for better or worse, at 11 o'clock, which is in 4 minutes on my watch, apparently the videotape runs out.
Good.
Hold on. We can keep going? We can keep going. Never mind. We don't need to know the technical details.
I move 1, 2.
Second.
1, 2.
1, 2. We have a proposal to do alternatives 1, 2 with the agricultural designation.
I have I was sitting here just with a question that I wanted to ask the developer. If we could have them come up.
The owner of the site, the applicant.
Before we do an alternative,
Yes.
Go for it. Ask
you guys are jumping ahead because you're really emotional or something.
Here he comes.
I just wonder if, based on your proposal for study area 19 and looking at the alternative number 3, does your proposal have any homes in this?
No, that's incorrect. I think the proposal that you have in your book, the 3-page with it right up, would most certainly be classified as an alternative 4. We said it was a redo of 2. It contains no homes. It contains a total of 400 acres of industrial and open space on the part that you would see on alternative 3.
The part being the red, the darker red? Or
the darker sides on that side. It would be 400 acres consistent with what you've done on the northwest side of that, northeast side of that intersection. It would also be on the southeast side.
So you're saying that this is roughly 400 acres?
We have maps in your package. They're color maps to show exactly what the alternative was that we suggest now would be 4.
The whole thing would be.
And then I just have one last question for the developer, if I could. How would you deal with the runoff and the wastewater from this project?
Well, we've done complete soil studies as well as we have an approved California Regional Water Quality Sewer Treatment package plant. The soil is terrible there. It does not perk, and there is no recharge going into the aquifer in our 400 acres. So it's clay, 12 inches below. So all those soil studies have been done. So the system has been approved. The water is huge there. There's 4 existing wells at 3,700 gallons a minute.
Thank you.
Nobody wants to prolong this, but I need to note that the HCP was very clear. Critical habitat, it receives a score of D, and that is an issue. Same issues that were identified for study area 18.
So I have a proposal for number 4.
Okay, so the proposed number 4 would be designating the entire area, the entire triangle, for a combination of industrial and open space uses, which I guess is to say that there would be industrial uses clustered with maintenance of open space in other areas. That's how I understand the proposal.
The developer's here if you needed a clarification.
The entire triangle would be designated in that way, according to my reading of the materials from the owner.
Does industrial include the possibility of like a fueling station or mini mart? I mean, you have a lot of college students going out there. Is there a possibility? I guess that would be retail.
If I can speak to that, the industrial use allows all of the C2 uses and C1 as well. So yes, fueling stations are important for that area. The produce company is sending the trucks into Chico to fuel now.
Right.
All right, we have 2 proposals on the table, one for the agriculture designation and the other for the owner's proposal, which is a mixture of industrial and open space across the entire site. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of alternatives 1 and 2, the agriculture? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And all in favor of the owner's proposal for a mixture of industrial with some open space? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the agriculture is the majority on that one. I think we are done. Thank you all very much. We will see you at Butte College next Thursday at 4:45 for another delicious dinner, followed by a really good time. I want to say I will not be here, but Joanna will be your facilitator, and you guys are going to have a great time.